All right, folks, we are back. Thank you for sticking with us. We are staying with coverage of how attorneys are defending local polo mogul John Goodman against accusations that he caused a deadly accident while driving drunk. News Channel 5's Roxanne Stein has been at the courthouse all day today, brings us live team coverage and analysis. Roxanne, we mentioned it a little bit earlier in this newscast. The bombshell, if folks were just joining us right now, John Goodman took the stand.
I think it was for just about everybody. The conventional wisdom was, Keely, that John Goodman would most likely not take the stand in his own defense. So when the judge asked the defense, when they rested with their expert testimony from the expert talking about a malfunction in that Bentley that John Goodman was driving the night in February of 2010 when he crossed Lake Worth Road and hit Scott Wilson's Hyundai, sending it into a canal. That expert, they rested with him, and when the judge said, your next witness, and Roy Black, the lead defense attorney, said John Goodman, well, we'll go to Michelle Suskauer right now because she was in the courtroom when that was announced. So let's bring in our legal analyst, local criminal defense attorney. I know when we were in the media room at the time, I had left the courtroom, and there were a few jaws that dropped. So what happened in the courtroom when Roy Black said, John Goodman is my next witness?
There weren't any gasps. I looked right at the jury, and the jury didn't shake their heads. They didn't have any visible reaction until John Goodman took the stand and Roy Black said, are you nervous? And then the prosecutor, Ellen Roberts, laughed or snickered. And when the judge looked at her and the defense objected, she said, oh, it was something that her co-counsel had said to her. So I thought that was a little strange.
Timing wasn't good, if that's the case.
Very inappropriate. But again, you know, things happen, and that could have been the case in bad timing. But that was really the only loud reaction that I heard to him testifying.
So we've talked about the jury and Ellen Roberts. What about Michelle Suskauer when the lead attorney Roy Black said John Goodman is my next witness?
I have to be honest, and I think we both are surprised by it. If I had to bet, I would have lost some money today. But again, thinking through it, the way that the defense is thinking through it, is that there are things that they have to get out through John Goodman that obviously they could not get out through any other witnesses. And it's very different when you hear an expert testify instead of hearing the defendant himself testify. So he corroborated, or he's going to attempt to corroborate what some of the other witnesses are saying to put his case together.
How do you think he is doing so far?
Well, it's very tough. He sounds and he looks very nervous. But he's gone, listen, he's been prepared by his counsel. So his answers are appropriate. He's giving his answers. They're smooth. He doesn't sound slick. He sounds nervous, slightly rehearsed, but I'm not surprised about that.
We want to talk a little bit more about this, but another courtroom watcher from our team this morning, with so many people in the courtroom this morning from WPTV, as we continue our team coverage, was Christina Mora. She was watching John Goodman testify as well, and she has more from the other side of the courtroom. Christina, it was a shock, wasn't it?
Hey there, Roxanne. Well, I think it's already very clear the points that Roy Black, the defense attorney, is trying to drive home with putting Goodman up on the stand from the start. He started going through a timeline of that night, starting with being very specific, asking him, Mr. Goodman, did you drink a drink called a mind eraser? Goodman said, absolutely not. He did the same thing about some other drinks. He asked them how much he had drank, and Goodman said he did not drink much that night. Now, again, Goodman sounds very nervous and hesitant on the stand, oftentimes repeating himself. But another point that they're trying to get across is Goodman said he was actually on his way to Wendy's when he drove past his house, and that would go to the fact that Goodman drove past his house when he was driving that night. And he also spoke about the time leading right up until the crash. Let's listen to that.
Could you describe to the ladies and gentlemen of the jury what happened as you were coming or approaching the intersection of Lake Worth Road and 120th?
I was traveling down Lake Worth Road, and I began to apply my brakes, and the car did not seem to be stopping as easily as I was used to, and so I continued to apply the brakes, and I came, I slowed before the stop sign, and I took my foot off the brake, and that's the last thing I remember.
Even there, you can tell Goodman is very hesitant in his answer, and it's taking him a little bit of time to get through his answers. And that was just the beginning. Obviously, he's going to come back on the stand at 1:15 this afternoon. Right now, the attorneys and the judge are in the middle of a discussion concerning the legality of a possible rebuttal witness. As soon as we learn more about that, we will let you know. For now, Rox, back to you.
All right, Christina, we have more breaking news. This is a morning and afternoon of big developments as we continue our team coverage here at the Palm Beach County Courthouse. After John Goodman took the stand, he testified maybe for about 15 minutes, would you say?
Sure.
And then at 5 after 12, the judge said, let's just take a break right now for lunch. They were going through a timeline with John Goodman about being at the White Horse Tavern, a meeting he had prior to that, and that what he was drinking, going through bar tabs, going through, as you heard Christina, driving along Lake Worth Road, or 120th Avenue toward Lake Worth Road. And then they broke for lunch after the incident happened, and then he ended up in Chris Campson's so-called man cave, as it's been referred to.
Right.
They broke for lunch there. Immediately, attorneys approached because they were arguing a motion about allowing the state to bring in an expert to testify about the Bentley and perhaps a mechanical malfunction.
Right.
And we just got a ruling from the judge. So why don't you explain that,
Sure.
Michelle?
What the defense was arguing was that the state should not be allowed to call a witness that they did not disclose. This is what we call a Richardson hearing or a Richardson violation. But basically, what the defense is saying is they were ambushed. They were surprised by a witness that the state did not give them until trial already started, a witness who did not come to any conclusions. They deposed or took the sworn statement of this witness yesterday, last night, so to speak. And this witness, according to Judge Colbath, just handed down a decision. This witness will be allowed to testify for the state. So in the state's rebuttal case, when the defense rests, the state is going to be putting on several witnesses, and this is going to be one of them, who is going to completely contradict their last technical expert who said that that there was a malfunction with the Bentley.
That testimony came this morning before John Goodman took the stand, and because John Goodman took the stand, it sort of trumped everything else that happened this morning, understandably. That witness, Luca Sarder, said that there were 57 trouble codes on this Bentley, that there were two different throttles on the Bentley, and things happened that could have led to an acceleration.
That the Bentley malfunctions, he believes, contributed to the accident. And so the state's witness, now that they're going to be able to put this witness on, and we'll hear from this witness today, the state's witness is going to testify that the Bentley did not malfunction, that these error codes were just simply error codes probably, and that the Bentley was zooming through on Lake Worth Road and went right through a stop sign. There was nothing wrong with the brakes, nothing wrong with the throttle.
And just another development, the judge said instead of convening again after lunch at 1:15, he said, let's give it another 15 minutes. So court is not going to be back in session until 1:15 this afternoon. Maybe it's to give the defense a little bit of time to regroup over having the state's rebuttal witness take the stand.
And I think this is good that he's giving, and I think he's going to be, the judge will probably be generous with the defense and giving them some more time since he's allowing this witness. We may see testimony now go into tomorrow as opposed to closing arguments starting tomorrow morning. John Goodman still has to finish his direct examination. I know that Roy Black is going to be playing the 911 tape and probably having John Goodman comment along the way. Did he remember saying that? Did he not remember saying that? And then we're going to hear from the cross-examination. And so certainly Roy Black is talking to John Goodman about the cross-examination, and they have prepared him for that.
And John Goodman, as Michelle said, is still going to question him when he takes the stand again at 1:30, and then the state will do its cross-examination. So let's go back to John Goodman on the stand. They're at lunch right now. What do you think Roy Black is saying to John Goodman at lunch?
Well, I think he's probably going to be giving his client encouragement that he's doing a good job. again, going over more of what his direct examination is going to be. Okay, John, these are the areas that we're going to be going through, and then, of course, they've done, I'm sure, many mock cross-examinations with John Goodman so that he'll be prepared for Ellen Roberts' cross-examination, to make sure to be respectful, to never argue with the prosecutor. Yes, ma'am, no, ma'am, and that's what we'll hear.
And how do juries respond to a defendant taking the stand usually?
Well, I think they're very interested in everything the defendant has to say, not only what they're saying, but the way they look and how they say it as well. And so I think that, but of course, John Goodman's answers are going to be self-serving. He is trying to help himself, and I think a jury knows that.
And he is facing 30 years in prison, the possibility of 30 years in prison, if he is convicted on both charges of the main charges brought against him.
That's right, and the judge, and chances are the judge will sentence him to, if not close to the maximum, then the maximum in this case, if he's found guilty of the charge.
So this is perhaps the biggest day for John Goodman.
Oh, I think this is. I think that John Goodman is basically pleading for his life here, at least for the next 30 years of his life, and he is going to be doing the best job he possibly can and trying to express himself and tell the jury what he believes happened that night.
It's going to be a very busy afternoon. John Goodman finishes. The state will do its cross-examination after the defense finishes with John Goodman. Then there will be rebuttal witnesses.
Right, that's right. And it's possible that both sides could wrap up today, if not tomorrow morning. Looks like closing arguments tomorrow.
Okay, we will be here for this full afternoon of testimony and rebuttal witnesses. John Goodman, we will keep you up to date on everything that is going on inside the courtroom on the 11th floor, Judge Jeffrey Colbath's courtroom, as the trial, the DUI manslaughter trial of John Goodman, continues. We will continue to bring you live team coverage. Reporting now live in West Palm Beach for the entire team down here covering the John Goodman trial. I'm Roxanne Stein. Now back to you in the studio.
All right, thank you very much, Roxanne, and the rest of our News Channel 5 team out there.